when factoring, there can be different cases. So I'm going to show you what those can look like. The first one is if your A, B, and C have a common factor. So that means A, B, and C can be divided by the same number without making it a fraction. So A is 2, B is 16, C is 14. So here they have a greatest common factor of 2. So we are going to factor out A2. This will help you factor later because then you're not working with such big numbers. So 2 goes on the outside. 2 divided by 2 is just 1. 16 divided by 2 is 8. And 14 divided by 2 is 7. So now you keep the 2 on the outside, and now you can factor your trinomial on the inside. And we can do, since A is 1, it should be an easy factor. So A times C goes on the top, so 1 times 7. And B goes on the bottom. And then we need 2 numbers that multiply to give you 7, but add to give you 8. So that would be 1 and 7, both positive. And so our new factors, the 2 stays on the outside. Then we get x plus 1 and x plus 7. So that is your factors. So what if there's no middle term? If there's no middle term, then we are going to assume that your b is 0. For this one, in order for it to factor nicely, we're going to make this a negative 1. And we're going to replace our b with 0. So it becomes 4x squared plus 0x minus 1. So we draw our x. We do a times c. So 4 times negative 1. And then b goes on the bottom. So what are factors of 4? We got 1 and 4, and we have 2 and 2. One of these is going to make 0. 4 and 1 will not make 0. 2 and 2 will make 0, but the only way that will work is if one of them is negative. So one of them is negative and one of them is positive. So if we factor these ones out, we get okay, so we did our multiplication. That was our slide. Now we're going to divide. So this is the slide divide bottoms up method. So we did the slide and we multiplied. Now we are going to divide, and we are going to divide by a. And what we can do is we can simplify these fractions. So we get x minus 1/2, x plus 1/2, and then the bottoms up. The 2 goes to the front, and the 2 goes to the front. So those are your new factors. Okay, what happens if you get 2 identical factors? So that's kind of a spoiler, but you'll be able to see. So a times c, so 1 times 16, and then b is negative 8. And then we need factors of 16. So we can do 16 and 1. We can do 8 and 2, or we can do 4 and 4. Which one is going to make negative 8? The first one, the second one, or the third one? Yep, the third one. But they both need to be negative. So once we write this one out, x minus 4 and x minus 4, if you notice, these are the same. You don't have to write them twice. Instead, you can write it as x minus 4 squared. And this is called a perfect square trinomial. So we call this perfect square trinomial. These two are the same. So the split factor is the same as the factor squared. And then in math, not everything is perfect. So I'm going to show you one where it doesn't factor. So let's try our slide, divide, bottoms up method. Okay, so slide to the back, multiply, we get 4 times 1, which is 4. The bottom is 1. And then we say, okay, factors of 4 are 4 and 1. We can also do -4 and -1. We can also do 2 and 2, or we can do -2 and -2. Okay, so if we add 4 plus 1, that equals 5. That doesn't work. -4 and -1, that equals -5. That doesn't work. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Doesn't work. -2 and -2 equal -4. That doesn't work. None of them will total 1, which means this one is non-factorable. Whenever it's non-factorable, we call it prime. So if a factor, no, we'll say expression, we say it's prime. So that's the math term we use for non-factorable. Okay, so this first one, we have a number that can be taken out. What is my greatest common factor? Good, 3, so let's factor out a 3. That becomes 1x squared. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And then from here, we can factor this. 0 is our b, -4. So we get 2 and -2. If we multiply those, it will give you -4. If we add them, it will give you 0. So these are in your math notebook if you want to have some extra practice. If not, go ahead and go on to Khan Academy and try 2 assignments.